So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys a little bit of a treat. So I have Carine Badran. I said that right, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
job.
yeah. Carine and I have been chatting for probably about like a year or so. Right now is
Yeah.
when we first really reached out to each other. She's super awesome, really into personal branding, fellow Canadian
Thank you.
from Montreal, out in Quebec, which is the opposite side. Wait, no, it's not the opposite. It's a 45-minute drive from Vancouver, isn't it?
No, it's so not 45 minutes
I
away.
once, I once,
I was really
yeah,
curious.
yeah, when I was in Hungary a few years ago, I had someone that was, I think they were American or something like that. It was kind of funny. Um, she found out that I was from Canada, and then she went on to be like, "Oh, Justin Bieber's from Canada." I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he's from Ontario." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, like where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I live in Vancouver." And she's like, "Oh, isn't that pretty close?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah. It's just a 30-minute. He literally lives like Toronto and Vancouver. It's a 30-minute drive away." I just convinced her it's 30 minutes, and she's like, "Oh my god, like you need to go." Like this is when Justin Bieber was like the biggest thing. I think it was like 2013, 2014,
Mm.
and she just lost it. It was just like, "Oh my god, I need to come visit Vancouver so I can go see Justin Bieber." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you go do that." but
People, man. Oh
exactly,
God.
exactly. So would you like to give a bit of a rundown about yourself, what kind of
Yeah.
businesses that you're involved in, as well as a few other things, fun facts that people would like to get to know for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's the first day of school. So tell us a few things. Yeah, so basically I run my own social media marketing agency, which is how Evan and I connected. We had that in common. And I also have, a strategy coaching business on marketing, branding, storytelling. And I also have a podcast called Lady Leaders Podcast and a YouTube channel, which you can check out. Mini plug, it's just my name. So you can go check it out there. And like I said, Lady Leaders Podcast on Spotify and iTunes if you're there. Basically, I mean, listen, I'm pretty much all over the place. I just love everything social media, and I find like it's the best way to leverage your personal brand, to leverage your story, and to grow monetarily, spiritually, meet up with people, connect with people, have like wonderful conversations with like-minded people. So that's pretty much me and what I do. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much my first day of school little intro.
Is there anyone that kind of pushed you into going into personal branding, coaching, digital marketing right at the beginning? Because it's a lot of what we do, we don't learn this in school at all. I don't
Hmm.
know if you went to private education or public education. Did you end up going to CSHEP?
Yes, I did. We
Yeah,
have
you went to
CJEP
CSHEP?
here in Montreal,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Quebec.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
relatives that live. My aunt lives in Montreal as well,
yeah.
and I'm actually like planning a trip to go to Osheaga in like August. I
Oh,
think it's like
nice. Yeah.
August or whatnot, because there's a few people
Usually
I
it's
really want to
August.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a few people I really want to see, and I think their lineup came out today, so I'm planning on a trip out there. But yeah, what kind of brought you into this sphere, since it's not something that was readily available to us that in the public school system or even in the private school system up here in Canada?
Yeah, I mean it's really like sometimes you find this similar to other people's stories, but it's very unique to myself because I was actually in finance for a while. So I studied finance. I did the whole 3 years of university and 2 years of CJEP, and I finished on time, and I was ready to start my new job in the banking industry in finance. And at last minute I was like, screw that, I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna start my own thing. So it's nothing that you learn in school, and I was actually always against, believe it or not, learning marketing in school, because I was like, it's pretty straightforward, and I'd rather just learn it on my own and the practicality of it rather than like the theory and all that. So I researched, purchased some courses, I got into some mentorship programs, and I learned everything on my own. And it was the same thing even in finance. I always say finance is my first love. So I would educate myself, I would read books about it. And it's nothing that you will really learn in school, because if you're interested in something, if you actually have a passion for it, you're going to retain it, right? You have a higher chance of retaining something, of actually acting on it. And that's what I found throughout my journey, from university to where I am now. So it's been a year that I've been in my agency, and everything that I've done thus far is self-taught. Nobody really took my hand and showed me the way, right? And I feel like that's what you will see in most business owners and the common points that you will see in there. But even if you decide to take an education, I highly suggest you educate yourself, because there's nothing like that. So yeah, I think to answer your question, nothing that I do today is from school. So there's always that little debate of whether or not it's even worth it to go to school. And to that, I would say it really depends on what you end up doing in your life, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't recommend, if you want to be a doctor, I wouldn't recommend just taking a online course in order to be a
Mm.
doctor. Highly recommend that you actually go to school for that.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. I say lawyer, like a lawyer, a doctor, certain engineers, you're never gonna learn on your own the things that you need to learn, right? And education system is amazing for those programs, but not for everything, especially not, for the spurt of in technology and in the internet what we've had throughout the last 10 years. It's not something that you're gonna find at school, right? It's not something that you're gonna learn unless you do your research.
yeah,
So
exactly. We both have a very similar story where we ended up working in corporate.
yeah.
You're in
Hmm.
finance. I was in broadcasting, and we both thought of just saying, yeah, screw it. I don't know how much time you're there in finance. I was only there in corporate broadcasting for around 6-7 months before I realized, like, shit, this is not at all. Did you before I say my my story with it, but did you have a plan at all when you were just like, yeah, I need to get out of here, I need to quit? Did you even have a plan, or did you just say, all right, I'm out of here first thing?
Yeah, so I did have somewhat of a plan. I didn't have any backup though. So it was like, okay, my backup is the fact that I have an education, I have a degree, but I didn't have clients. Like I had nothing going for me at the time. So my plan was I needed the pressure, and I was like, if I need to do this, then I just have to quit my job, because there's always going to be an excuse for me, and I just know myself, and I always say this even in my podcast, is you have to know what kind of person you are. Are you the kind of person who needs to have something lined up for them, like something like a little safety blanket to keep them going and to push them towards starting a new career, a new path, or a new business? Or are you the type of person that actually needs the pressure and be like, okay, I have no choice right now but to go ahead and get a client?
You
So
just
it
get
was
pushed
the
into the
latter.
deep end of the pool. There, learn how
Yeah,
to swim. There you go. Have some fun.
exactly. Pretty much. And I wanted to challenge myself. And I was like, if there was a time, it would be now. I have no kids, no family, nothing, and I was living in my parents' house. So literally it was a good time for me. And I didn't have really a plan. That's pretty much long story short. I didn't, you know.
Exactly like me. I just literally
Yeah.
had no plan. I knew I wanted to do a podcast myself, and I had
Yeah.
my YouTube channel monetized at the time. And I did it for a couple months, and then I was just like, "Oh, this is plan A. I'm just gonna like monetize my podcast. I'm gonna do it like my mentor did,
Hmm.
cut everything up. I'm already monetized. I can see this, like I can see the payment, even though I was getting paid like I don't know, like 8 cents a day or 12 cents a day or whatever. I saw it incrementally going up every single week. It would on average go up by a couple cents or so. So I knew that it was only a matter of time before it would just
Hmm.
end up getting into either double digits, triple digits or so for AdSense. Like it was only a matter of time. But then when YouTube changed the rules in January, I believe it was January 2018 when they changed the rules for monetization, then it just went. I think a lot of content creators just decided to say, not worth it now, because it was very self-defeating. There's not much motivation. But that was my plan A. And I was just like, well, what's my plan B? I don't know. I don't know what my plan B is. So that's when I started going into advertising and like Facebook ads for like drop shipping, e-com, learning that out with a partner of mine out in the UK. Did that for a little bit, and then just kind of realized like, holy crap, maybe I should be doing more social media stuff, since that's what I was stronger with from my
Hmm.
time in corporate media, because that's what I primarily did. I did social media promotions, and yeah, that's how I figured out my plan B was to get drop kicked into the deep end, and just be like, yep, there's your plan B, figure it out yourself, try to get to the ledge as quick
Exactly.
as possible without drowning. So yeah, so that's funny that we both have that very similar story, and going from finance to something along those lines, that's finance is very analytical as well.
Yep.
Yeah, going from that to something like coaching and starting an online business, what kind of motivators and what kind of individuals did you look at for help right in the beginning? Did you look more so within your own connections, or did you seek something out either online or in other avenues?
Yeah. So when I first started off, I was just so hyped, and I even to this day I try to motivate myself because there's always a little rush when you start a business. I think like a business, and I think that's why I've started to, I became sort of a serial entrepreneur because I just wanted to start businesses. I love the rush of starting it. So when I first started it, I knew that I had to, what was the next step? Who did I need to get in contact with? What are the biggest connections that I could have? And I reached out to actually a few YouTubers, a few people who had podcasts going, people in the industry who were making it. And one of the a few people that I can mention to you would be Omar from The Passionate Few. I'm not sure if you know that show, but basically,
That's who you did the speech with. That was about a week ago or so.
no, that's Daniel.
So that
That's
was
Daniel
Daniel.
Barania.
That
Yeah,
was
so
Daniel.
Daniel
Okay.
Barania is one of my close friends
Oh,
too.
the Passionate Few. No, no, now I know who the Passionate Few is because I
Yeah.
actually downloaded Eman's interview from that just to kind of go over because I thought it was like because Eman doesn't really do much like interviews or anything, and I
Hmm.
found it very interesting in like the sit down setting and stuff. And I actually downloaded it because I didn't have internet for 10 days when I was moving from one place to the next place about like a month ago or so. So I
Hmm.
had no internet for like at my place for like 10 days. So I was like, crap, I got to go download all this stuff from Starbucks just so that I can have something to watch later on because I just can't like flick something on and watch like Netflix or YouTube or anything. So
Yeah.
yes, I am familiar with the Passionate Few. So
Yeah, so I actually met him, and I wanted, I seek coaching. So we spoke, and he gave me a lot of good advice. And actually, he was one of the catalysts for me to start my podcast, and he mentored me into starting that called Lady Leaders Podcast. And I was very much influenced by his work, and I got a lot of pretty much just mentorship from him. And I really love the way he asks questions, how he connects with his viewers and all that. So that was one of the first people I reached out to. And even when I first started to grow my personal brand, I started having people reach out to me. Actually, Daniel Gorania reached out to me. He has a sales agency. I ended up speaking at one of his events here in Montreal, and he's pretty much doing a whole world-class closer tour all over North America. So it's amazing. You just have to reach out to people. It's so easy. I'm even connected with Elena Cardone on LinkedIn. Like, it's so easy to get in contact with people nowadays. Like, you just have to notice what platform they're most present on, or what platform you can leverage, right? So that's pretty
exactly.
much what I did with a lot of people that I connected with. And even to this day, if I find like an opportunity to find mentorship from someone else or coaching, I'll reach out to them.
That's
So
great
yeah.
advice. Great,
Yeah.
great advice because
Yeah.
so many people are scared. That's what majority of people, when you have all this technology, like our phones, these things, the technology in them is better than when we first went to the moon. Like
Hmm.
inside of these devices, and we have the power to connect with any person in the world. Any person. Like I'm pretty sure like you can connect with Elon Musk. All you have to do is like Elon at Tesla.com. Like
Right.
that's his email. I'm pretty sure that's his email. I know Jeff Bezos, his email is
Jeff
Jeff at
Amazon.
Amazon.com. Like, and he gets so many emails every single day from various amounts of people, and he will go through it and actually look at the emails. It might take him 6 months or a year to respond, but he'll actually go through the emails and
Yeah.
actually like see it either himself or his assistant, which is like, yeah,
Exactly.
the power of communication is 100% true. How come you think that what holds people back from taking action then and actually like pursuing these types of endeavors like yourself? Like not many people, it's a very small minority of people that actually pretty much, like, to put it frankly, like have the balls to actually go out there and get in front of people and kind of showcase themselves. um
Yeah.
how come you think that some people are kind of scared to do that?
It's so funny. This is a topic I'm very passionate about because yesterday I was actually sitting with my cousin and his wife, and she was talking about how she wants to start her online closet, and she always gets a lot of inquiries about, how do you style this outfit and how do you do this? And she's the type of person who loves the 9 to 5 routine. She likes going to work, getting her paycheck. And we were just talking about something like, that's amazing for you. I would rather kill myself, but yeah, that's amazing. I'm just kidding. Like, we were talking about that, and I'm like, why don't you just start your own page for an online closet? So there's so many girls out there doing it, and what's gonna make me different? And I don't feel like, and I think a lot of people, they they think it's such a big obstacle for them to make a change in their life or to even reach out to someone, and they start to, they're like, maybe tomorrow I'll do it, and then they'll hold it off. And I told her, listen, if you're thinking about doing it, don't think, like, just do it. And have, Tony Robbins talks about this, he says massive action. Take one action towards it today if you're talking about it right now. And if you let your mind, if you give that power to your mind, it's so funny what it can do to you. It will literally talk you out of doing anything simply out of fear of rejection or fear of how would I look and what if they judged me. So I think I've mastered the fact that it's always going to be like that. People are going to hate, people are going to judge no matter what you do. Worst case, you just get someone telling you, no, I don't want to have a meeting with you. No, I don't want to go for coffee with you. Or I don't like this outfit. Whatever it is the case, I think people are they just give the power to their mind instead of actually just acting upon whatever comes up to them. And they see, I think, a big difference between them and the people that make it, which is why I started my podcast, because I wanted to show that everybody has the same opportunities given to them. We're all skin and flesh, where we all have blood running through our veins. Nothing is different from me or you, so it's just a matter of the story that we tell ourselves and the story that gets us from point A to point B at the end of the day. So it's a bunch of factors, I think, that
we're all just stardust. That's all that we are. We're just stardust.
Yeah, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah,
world's your oyster.
Mm-hmm. Like that's one of the things that like I really thought about, especially going back to my youth, is that the school system in and of itself, they kind of train people to just not have the confidence in their own ability, so that it trains people for jobs, which means that like you have to go and kind of beg someone for a paycheck every 2 weeks kind of thing, and like make it consistent where you don't have the creativity, and it kind of stamps it out right at the beginning. You don't have the creativity and to be able to do things yourself. Like I remember growing up, I had a friend who was just such a good drawer, but because of the constant, like all he wanted to do was just draw all day. And because all of his teachers kept telling him not to, and he just got sick and tired of hearing it after 8-9 years. So then he just kind of stopped like drawing or whatever, whenever he felt that he really wanted to draw, which is kind of a shame because he was an awesome drawer. But I was very fortunate growing up, mainly from my parents, to instill in me to go out and get work. But the two main jobs that I got as a kid, one of them was being a referee. I think I was 11 years old when I started. I was a referee for box lacrosse as well as for ice hockey when I was 11, 12 years old. And then the other one that I really did, I was doing principal acting work. So I'd have to go out to auditions and stuff. Those two jobs, I don't think there's ever been any harder jobs I've ever done. Even what I do with my agency, it's still not even close to how hard it was for me as a 12, 13-year-old to just get berated by adults for criticizing me for like any type of like officiating stuff. Adults going out and swearing at you and like wanting to fight you. Like there's a video on my YouTube channel, pretty funny. It's my most watched video. It's of a hockey dad who wanted to come onto the ice to fight me and my friend, who were refereeing his kid's game. That's just kind of an example of like the stuff that we kind of had to do, but that's more of a comedy stuff because that's why I got a lot of views, because it's just hilarious. Yeah, I definitely recommend, if you guys are watching this on my YouTube channel, just to go watch that video. It's just really funny. You see me in it a little bit. But that job, when I had that as a kid, that really instilled in me to one of the books that I really saw this in is like stand up with your back straight, your shoulders back, and like stand up with like really good posture. And that was from Jordan Peterson's 10 Rules for Life.
12 Rules, yeah. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's a really good book.
Yeah, it's a great book. And I really learned that as a kid when I was doing that type of job, and like and it really brought into me that like, hey, adults could just be as much idiots, if not more idiots, than kids are. Or they're just kind of like more scared, or they've just gone through so much trauma in their own life and they just don't know how to react to something that might not be going their way, that they don't have control of, especially with their kids or whatever, because so many parents are just so controlling of their kids too. And I had to really empathize with those type of people that like they don't really necessarily mean, like they don't mean to curse me out as a 12, 13-year-old when they're like in their mid 50s or so, or mid 40s. And the other job that really helped me go over my mindset was with principal acting work and going out to auditions as a 15, 16-year-old and just being rejected. time after time after time, always rejected. But I had to come to the conclusion that it wasn't my fault, because I was losing roles to people that were above the age of 18. And because of the laws in Canada, where, especially in the film industry, where you can only keep a minor on set, I believe, for only 8 hours, including a 1 hour lunch. So really, there's only really on camera, I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 hours or so. I'm not too sure if you've ever been on set or done any like
No,
movies or
true.
anything like that, TV shows and stuff, but those days can be 16-hour long, 16-hour days, 18-hour days. And it's very like, why would anyone want to hire someone with this type of regulation, even though they might be the perfect person for it, but they can only work a certain amount of time when they know that they need this amount of time, and they can only rent out a space for a day or something like that. So
Yeah.
it was something that I had to get over like myself, but it was one of those things that you just mentioned. It's the constant rejection, and people are very scared of rejection. And that was one of the activities that I did in my youth that really helped me just not be scared of, if someone says no, I'm like, well, at least that's an answer.
Yeah.
At least they
Really,
said
yeah, I've come to
no.
that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like the worst thing that someone can like do is just like not say anything, but then you have full on permission to just keep like asking. Like if
Yeah.
someone doesn't give you an answer, then that's their own problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. So
Just
how
give me
did
a no.
exactly. So how did you overcome that mindset then about people saying no, especially right in the beginning when you just didn't have any sort of background yourself, no results, and you're just kind of starting to grow from a tadpole going into becoming a frog at the end of the day. Sorry to put that analogy there. But yeah, like how did you kind of overcome that right at the beginning with the consistently of people just saying no?
Yeah, so I actually got this question from one of my followers, and one of the followers on Instagram. And someone was telling me, like, I want to start. I was at the event. I was too shy to come up to you, but how do you, get over the fear of rejection? And I'm so terrified, to raise my hand sometimes to ask a question. What if, someone laughs at me, or what if the business doesn't want to work with me? And I told them that one of the best things you can do for yourself is just reframe that, because as long as you think as you getting rejection is a negative thing, and it's gonna harm me, and my reputation, how I feel about myself, of course you're never gonna want to go through it, right? Like you have to frame it in a way where it's like, okay, today I want to get rejected at least 2 times. I'm gonna uh, have this little game going for myself, with myself, of how many times can I get rejected today and like feel okay. So it's just about changing that. And I think also Sarah Blakely talks about this. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she said when she was younger, she would come back home from school and her dad would ask her, what did you fail at today? Which kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said, because if you're not going to get used to getting rejected, you're just never going to flourish or grow as a business owner or as a person on social media. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're never going to feel like, okay, I've overcome this. So, and also it kind of plays a good role in building that confidence, because as soon as you're like, okay, I'm not scared of getting rejected, you're going to find a better response from business owners. So you just have to erase that fear, although it never completely goes away, but at least you get a bit used to it. So there isn't a right way to handle rejection. I think it's just about reframing it and seeing it in a different light.
Oh, exactly. And
Yeah.
as soon as you mentioned about like getting rejected a couple times per day, there's a TED Talk video that I think I watched. I think it was like, I don't know, 6 months ago or 7 months ago, and it just came on randomly on like the autoplay thing where it was just talking about rejection. And I forget who did that, but it's a TED Talk. I forget who said it though. It's in the top of my mind. You probably know who it is, but
Mm,
it's a gentleman. Yeah, it's a gentleman who literally was scared of being rejected, and all his goal was to get rejected once every single day, no matter where it was. Like if you would go to a fast food restaurant and ask for like, hey, can I get this instead? Like he would go to I think Burger King or something, and he would ask for a Big Mac, and then the guy was like, wait, what? No, we can't. It's like, oh, okay, thank you. And that was his one rejection, because he was just so scared of getting rejected. But it's something like even that small that people are like,
yeah.
hey, it's not that bad at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So
That's
so
dope. Do
yeah,
that, guys.
yeah, exactly. So just going back to when you're just kind of starting out with your business and stuff, when was it the first moment that you were able to close off your first client? What were some of the services that you're able to provide for them, and how did they end up reaching out to you, or did you reach out to them?
Yeah, so at first I tested a few things. So I would do, cold emails. I would try Instagram, Facebook, and the thing that really worked for me, especially at the beginning, was LinkedIn. So I had the Sales Navigator, I had LinkedIn Helper. If you guys could download that too, where you can literally connect with so many people, and it will just connect with them for you. Once you're connected with them, you can then contact them and build rapport. So that's kind of the first thing that really worked for me, was building that rapport with people and noticing how they like to be flattered. And that's not something that, I knew, especially in the beginning in my sales journey, was actually having interest for the business owner and their business and what they do. It played a huge role in me then closing them, because it wasn't like I was your average salesperson trying to just literally harass them. Hey, can I get your business? It was like, okay, this person actually cares about my business, and therefore I'll give her a meeting, I'll give her a call. So that was one of the first steps towards finally landing one of my first clients. Was, like my first 2 months. I think my first month was like trial and error, and then the second month I closed like a real estate agent at the time, and it was for like a social media gig. And I told her, listen, like, this is the truth. I'm not that experienced with it. I'm willing to work for this much, which was like, I think I was charging her like $600 a month for just like a few posts per week. And yeah, so I worked with her, and I told her, and one of the first pivotal points was I would go through meetings and I would not be able to close them my first month. But then my second month, the pivotal point was I would tell them how, like, I'm going to make a decision with you today. And as soon as you tell the business owner, listen, I'm not willing to run after you afterwards. And now it might be different, because I'm trying to, I'm reaching bigger people, bigger businesses. So my first client was really being honest with the person about my experience, what it is that I'm doing, what it is that I'm able to achieve for them. And then finally telling them, I want to make a decision with you today. And you can just tell me, I don't want no bullshit. Because usually what it'll be like, what it'll be saying was like, send me a proposal, or let me get back to you. Let me talk to my business partner. And I have a video on this actually on YouTube, one of my best videos actually. So you can check it out. It's how I close people in the first meeting. So it's really just going through the strategies and seeing what kind of service that it was that I was offering, what kind of people it would appeal to. And I think we were just talking about this earlier. You were saying the clients that came after you, not came after you, but like the clients that would ask you for the service or would come and reach out to you were the better quality, right? Better quality clients, rather than the ones that you would reach out to them and try to literally sell them the service. So you really have to develop that rapport with them, where it's not you running after them. It's not you trying to literally sometimes beg them for their business. And a lot of the times what you'll find in social media is a lot of people don't actually believe in the service that they have to offer, and they're just doing it for the money. So I think that could also hinder it and play a big role in not getting the clients that are good for you and developing a good relationship with them. So to what extent do you have to be, and I think this could be a question that we can answer right now, is to what extent, and this was something that I was really curious about, because the clients that would be super picky, or the clients that would really try and run after them, were the clients that gave me the biggest headache, right? And the ones who would actually reach out to me, same thing for you, right? And we would develop this rapport together, and they would actually be my friends, were so much nicer and so much more willing to spend more for the same service. So it wouldn't hinder anything. Do you hear me?
Oh yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So
No, you're
yeah.
still going.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's basically the difference, and you have to see it for yourself, no matter what the business it is that you're offering,
No,
even if you're not on social media, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's all about framing. 100%.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all about the proper framework, and just not, especially not like oozing like desperation. It's something like, I think it's the same thing as dating. 100%. Like how to close like clients and stuff. It's like you can't really ooze like desperation. Like I remember when, oh, what was it with my buddy a little while ago? I forget. It was a few years ago, and he was going through a very dry spell, as we were, and And I just felt really bad for him because like, oh my God, women can like smell it in a room with like desperate guys. They can totally just smell it. Like a guy can just walk into a room and like a woman won't even have to
Yeah.
look at him and like, oh, okay, all right, I'm staying on this side of the room tonight. Some sort of like endorphins or pheromones or something. But yeah, but then I told him to like reverse frame it, like pretend that like you live life in abundance instead of looking at it as like you're desperate to like go after like, oh, each person, what people aren't able to see you just go after each and every person, going from one person for 1 minute, next person, next person, next person. You're not living life in abundance when you need to be living in the mindset of abundance. And really weird. I don't know why it just came to me, but I was watching an interview that Donald Trump did maybe around like 5-6 years ago. And he was talking about a friend of his that couldn't afford to fly business class, but he still flew business class because he needed that for his mindset in order to be like, this is where I belong, even though he couldn't afford it. And he actually got into debt just flying business class around the US. But because of that mindset of being like, no, this is where I belong, he actually like ended up making much more money out of it. And he ended up sitting next to someone where he closed, I think it was like a $25,000 deal just on like a plane ride from like New York down to Florida or something like that. And it's all from that right mindset at the end of the day of living in abundance, instead of just like living in like a very desperate shell and stuff. So yeah, that's fantastic
Yeah.
advice. Karen, that's awesome. I know you want to talk a little bit about mindset as well, especially for like business and stuff. What would be kind of the proper mindset to in order to build that rapport with a client then? I know that you mentioned LinkedIn was the first place where you got a client, and lo and behold, that was the first place where I got my first high end paying client through cold messaging was through LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is just like a gold mine. If you know how to use LinkedIn, then like LinkedIn is literally like a gold mine.
100%.
There's like
Yeah.
so much money on LinkedIn. And it's just all about kind of like seeing like if people are there for a professional environment and stuff. It's a very different like mindset on LinkedIn. So do you want to take us back a little bit and just talk a bit more about the mindset that you have in order to build those relationships with those clients? Because so many people just go in and try to cold message people and just and they don't try to build rapport or anything like that. And then they're like, oh, why are these people mean to me, or why aren't they answering me, or whatever. So is there any advice that you would like to give that in order to build rapport with anyone, either cold messaging or actually physically talking to someone in person
Yeah,
or over the phone?
definitely. So I always, the thing that I would do at the beginning, now it's, you can't always do the same thing, right? Because you kind of lose that oomph that you have with people. So when I first started off, it would always just be like, hey, can you answer this question for me? And then I would just have them respond to me. I think that was one of the first things that I would focus on, is just trying to get a response from the lead that you're trying to basically close at the end of the day. And then another thing that now I even use is my first, let's say, piece of contact or whatever it is that I'm going to be talking to them about at first, I always make sure that it's not really sales related. It's just related to them. So wonderful thing about LinkedIn and even Facebook and all those social media platforms is you can see what articles they're sharing, what accomplishments they've had, what kind of volunteer experience they've had, and all of those things that you can literally use and sculpt into your first message to them. So be like, hey, Mike, I love that you, saved cats in the, I don't know, like, I love that you basically had a forum talking about women empowerment, or you had this event, and basically strike up a conversation related to a topic that they're passionate about and that maybe you're even interested in as well. And, obviously I'm not saying manipulate them or be fake, but at least just strike up a conversation like you would with a stranger at a bar. If they're wearing a nice shirt, if they're talking about business, if they're a speaker, you want to talk about those things, right? So it's kind of the same thing when it comes to building rapport with a business owner or in the niche that you're in. So that was kind of the first thing in terms of technique that I would use before even building a relationship with them and having that mindset when I would want to close them. And the mindset that I always had as well, and I still have today, when I'm trying to, let's say, develop a relationship with a potential client or build rapport or whatever it is that I'm trying to do, is I act as if, like you said, you don't want to be desperate, right? It's really about it's a give and take. It's not like I'm trying to sell you something for my sake. It's like I'm doing you a favor by giving you information about this. So my friend who is now a mortgage broker, he just sent me a post today. uh it's the first time that he's trying to sell himself, and he's doing all those things. So he tells me, is this good that I posted a story about, there was a quote like, don't be the rent guy, like be the landlord, or I don't even know what it was, but he was just saying like, if you guys need help, contact me, I'll give you a good deal on your mortgage. And he's like, is this too pushy? Like, am I being too forward about the service that I'm offering? And I'm like, there is no such thing about being too pushy or giving people too much information about the service that you have to offer, how you're going to help them. You're actually doing them a favor by giving them that information. I'm like, if you think of it that way, nobody's going to see it in a negative light unless they're actually a hater, a troll, right? And those are the only people who are actually going to make a comment like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's telling me to contact him for my mortgage. Who would think that? It's like, no, this guy is actually trying to help me land a better deal for my house, right? So it's the same concept when it comes to reaching out to people. You're giving them information because you're not thinking about the money that you're going to make out of it. You're thinking about how they're going to better their business thanks to you. So yeah, that's how you should frame it. It's all about that reframe. Again, like that's
Love
the
it.
mindset that you have to have.
Yeah, love it, love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about like, especially like haters and trolls or whatnot. I remember when I did like a Cyber Monday deal or something like that, where I was just like giving out like free coaching or something like that, because I usually charge for like just 1 hour. I usually charge 500 an hour for like free coaching, but I was just like, might as well just do a Cyber Monday thing. Like, I kind of feel like giving back a little bit today. I was heading off to Belize in like a few days after that or something like that. It was either I was heading off or I just came back. I forget when. No, it was when I just came back, when it was Cyber Monday. And I remember I got 6 messages from like friends. I got mostly like all positive like feedbacks and all that sort of stuff when I just did the offer over all I did was just do an offer over Instagram stories. And I remember I got 6 different messages from 6 friends that I've had throughout my life. And all of them pretty much saying, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, what's like that they were like very threatened by something of like me saying that I charge 500 per hour for coaching, which is very true. That's what I charge. People have paid
Yeah.
like 500 US, like not even Canadian, it's 500
Yeah.
US. And I've had people pay that. So like in my mind, I'm like, oh, whatever. Like I didn't really care. But in their minds though, as like a self-reflection for themselves, it was like especially for a couple of them that I went to elementary school with too. So they didn't really see me, like they can't see like someone that they went to school with can charge that amount per hour. It's just unfathomable for them when they're getting paid like $18 to $20 at their like job, at their day job. Like it's very like, it's not something that they thought about or whatever. So I got all these like super long essay messages from like 6 different friends, and I'm just like, that's just like energy that they need to exert for themselves because they were very uncomfortable with it themselves.
Oh my
Not because of
gosh.
me, it's because of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a very interesting thing. And like what you just mentioned, it's trolls and like haters and stuff like that. Like there's always going to be people that are kind of like that, but it's mostly a reflection on themselves.
Yeah.
At the
100%.
end of the day, there's not much that like you can kind of do. You can kind of like, sure, you can kind of like poke the bear a little bit with like certain stuff, but like certain people that would have your back at the end of the day, they will always have your back and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I really hate the advice that a lot of people have about like, oh, cutting off your like party friends, cut off like all these other friends and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, no, like if you cut off all those people, then like how are you going to be able to like chill out at the end of the
Yeah.
day and like relax? Like
Yeah.
you need to have stupid time. Like I
Yeah.
always like refer back, like you always need to like counterbalance everything. You always need like a time to like dick around and like screw around with
Mm-hmm.
your friends and stuff, instead of just being wham 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 business. Like sure, like Monday to Friday, tell your friends like don't contact me until after like 4 p.m. on a Friday, and then let's get lit on Friday and like Saturday or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
while you can concentrate on your business either 5 days or 6 days a week. That's
Yeah.
some relationship that I have with my friends currently, which is just absolutely amazing, and they're completely understanding of it. And I've actually grown a lot closer with a lot of my closer friends
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, just from this whole process of building a business and stuff. So yeah, let's talk a bit more about like your podcast then. How did you end up like wanting to start a podcast? Why did you think that that would be the best thing for your personal brand, especially in the beginning stages of your business?
Yeah. I just want to like kind of touch on what you just said
Oh
about
yeah, yeah, for sure.
friendships. Yeah. Like I love the comment that you just made about not having to eliminate all your friends who are basically who value different things than you in terms of, whether it's monetary values, whether it's relationship values, whatever. I the thing that I found is I have friends that aren't, business savvy, but I still love and who support me till the end, and those are the kinds of people that you need around. Of course, you still need those friends. I think Ed Milet talks about this, that you need those friends that you want to clean up your house before they come over and you still want to be at your best. So it's all about having that balance. Of course, when you start your business, expect to lose a lot of people in your life, and it's not that you're going to become an asshole. Just some people, like you said, you went to elementary school with them, and they're not comfortable seeing you be somewhere and them still somewhere else. So it's always going to be a threat to them. Now, in terms of my podcast, yeah, so it's actually one of the probably the best things I've done for my personal brand, and one of the things that like I'm so excited about is because I realized, and I used to think that I didn't like people. Like I used to think like I want to be alone all the time. I don't like human beings.
Yeah,
And it
just like
actually,
people. Are you an only child or do you have siblings?
I have siblings.
You have
Yeah,
siblings? Okay, okay.
I'm the youngest of three.
Youngest. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, needs the attention. Okay, I
I'm the spoiled brat. Just kidding.
got it.
Yeah, but yeah. So I used to think I didn't like, but actually, it's contrary. I love human beings. Like I love connecting. I love talking, having meaningful conversations. Like that's one of the things that you'll probably see me do on a weekend. Like I won't go out. I'll probably just be chilling at my friend's house and having a glass of wine and just talking about everything and nothing. So yeah, and the reason why I started my podcast is because it's such a good way to connect with, and the way that I'm doing it is I'm connecting with a lot of boss women, lady leaders. So a lot of women who are inspiring girls and ladies and even men to start something for themselves, to monetize their passion. And it's all about the story. The thing that had me start my business, had me start my podcast, is the story that I used to hear from people who've made it. The success stories are what really inspired me to do my own thing. And I wanted to offer that to someone else, and I want to offer it to whoever needs to hear it, because you never know, someone could be losing hope in their business, someone could be losing hope in the work that they're doing, and then they stumble upon one of my episodes and they're like, shit, like this person was at this low point in their life and now they've made it somewhere. So that was the motivation behind it, and also just connecting with boss women and people like yourself and amazing people out there. It's priceless. It's something that I find, if you're able to do, which you are, which everybody has the capability of doing it, especially now with social media. So leverage that, and it's the most amazing thing you can do for any business. So that's what I've found with it. And asking questions, something that I think I was born to do. I love it. So yeah, all that together.
Yeah, I'm very much the same as well. I
Yeah.
always I was the annoying kid that would just either, because I
Yeah.
was the only child growing up. That's why I asked if you're an only child or not, because we both have very similar personalities,
Makes
very
sense
similar
now.
stories. Yeah, exactly. I used to always, since like the only time I can hang out with people around my age was always at school or extracurricular activities like sports and stuff. So I would always be the one to like be out of my desk all the time and just go talk to people. And then when my teachers would question me about like, no, you should be doing your work, I'm like, why? Why would, like, I was that kid. And then like you can say why it, like people only think about maybe two or three, like I know Tony Robbins said this is where I got it from, where you ask 7 whys and then you figure it the fuck out, and then you find what the answer is as soon as you ask 7 whys. So I would get to like, people don't think past 3 whys, and then they just get so frustrated, especially if it's coming from like an 11-year-old or a 10-year-old or something like that, annoying little
Mm.
which is actually pretty funny. But yeah, um,
You're a mini Tony Robbins at 11.
uh, just
You
ask
knew.
anyone. There's a funny story. Like I interviewed Evan Carmichael about like a year and a half ago. You're familiar with Evan Carmichael, yeah?
I think it rings a bell.
He's
Who's
the
that
one
guy?
that's like he has like a big YouTube channel, like 10 top 10 rules for life or something like that, or 10
Maybe.
rules.
Yeah.
It's something along those lines. But he does a lot of like interviews and all that sort of stuff. And I remember I was interviewing him. He has like 2 million subs, I think, on YouTube or so. I remember I was interviewing him, and I was going on to do some research about like 5-10 minutes before, And he was live on his channel 5-10 minutes before, and I was just like, oh, okay, like that's kind of weird. We have an appointment or whatever in like 15-20 minutes. I'm going to go see what he's up to. Lo and behold, on his live channel, he was interviewing Tony Robbins. And then 2 minutes later, I got to talk with him after he was talking with Tony Robbins. And I was just like, I'm like, that's the power of just like going out there and putting yourself in front of people. Like you mentioned before, Carine, it is, you never know like the connections that you get and like who they're connected to either. So I literally like within 30 seconds, he went from talking to Tony Robbins to like me. And I was like, that's like the craziest thing, like putting his time, like he put an equal amount of time for Tony as he did with me. And I'm like, it's
crazy.
That was super crazy. That's when I was just like, oh my God, light bulb moment there. But yeah, podcasting, especially like podcasting and what you mentioned about like being able to teach people and show people, because I always wanted to be a teacher myself growing up. I always wanted to be a high school teacher, but then I realized that like, oh crap, that's like why would I want to teach only say 30 to 60 kids a year when on my YouTube channel I've taught 300 people in the last like 48 hours
and make 500 an hour. So
yeah. And the funny story is that like I had someone who wasn't not even a student of mine or anything, and he just asked me a few questions. I think he's inside the agency incubator group as well, the one that we're both a part of, Iman Gadji's group. And he reached out to me and he sent me like the nicest 1-minute message today saying how he had like, it was only like for me, like he came out and was just like, Evan, like you're the person I need to thank. Like I closed my first ever client for $2,000 per month and for like minimum 90 days. So I helped this guy close a $6,000 deal, and all I had to do is just be there kind of for them. Like I wasn't like I usually take precedent for like my students and people that pay me for coaching services and stuff. I usually take precedent for them, but I like to answer some people's questions who are kind of lost and like take the initiative to kind of go out there and like, I don't know, kind of pay it forward every so often. Like I have a designated time of just like answer questions, which I'm sure you do as well, because sometimes it can get very overwhelming, especially with social media. You have a decent following as well, where you probably get multiple questions per day, and it's just very hard to like answer every single one like right away. Like you just have to do it within like, hey, I have like 10 minutes to just answer questions or something, and like that's my thing for the day. But he sent me the 1 minute of like the nicest message this morning. I'm like, that is why I do this. This is why I do what I do, even though he hasn't even given me a cent or whatever. But just the fact that like where he says like I was the primary reason how he was able to close his first ever real estate client. And it's little moments like that. It's like exactly, and that really resonated with me when you mentioned that. Yeah, that's the reason why I upload is because, and I upload a podcast is because you never know who's going to find it, and you never know whose lives that you're going to affect, because when you do something online, like you don't know the proper reach and scale of your actual like of your personal brand or your message. While the first time that I really saw something, yeah, oh, you're back on. The first time that I saw something of scale where like, oh my God, there's actually like people here for a specific reason was when I was at the Grower Agency party in October, and I had like 10 or 15 kids come up to me at this party, and this party was around, I was going to say maybe around I don't know how many people were there. There must have been like, I don't know, like 200 people, 300 people there, or something like this, something along those lines. And I had 10 to 15 kids come up to me asking me for a photo and be like, are you Evan? I was like, the fuck are you, like, I don't know. Like I was old there, Carine, like I was old, like being 26 there, like there was 18 to 22 year olds. Like it was mostly 18 to 22 year olds that were there. And I'm like, I feel like a grandpa right now, like, kind of around these kids. But I had these kids just come up to me like, oh my God, you're Evan. Like I don't even recognize any of these people whatsoever, but it's just from going on and answering questions either inside the group or like someone sent me a personal message and I just respond back. And I just have no idea what the actual like the effect that words have on people until kind of that moment where I had at someone else's party, I had like 10 to 15 kids just come up to me and be like, I need to get a photo with you because you helped me like either close out my first deal, you helped me like increase my pricing, you gave me the confidence to go out and like close out X amount of meetings and stuff. And it was very like very humbling experience. And that was the first time where I realized like, holy shit, like the internet is like, and I had some person came up to me, he's like, I've been following you for years on YouTube. I'm like, really? I wouldn't even follow me for years on YouTube. Like, are you sure that you have?
Liar.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that you mentioned, like you have no idea how it's going to affect you and stuff.
Yeah.
I know I've taken up a lot of your time, Karen.
No worries.
I greatly appreciate your time here. I just have a couple more questions, and then we'll just quickly wrap up. Are you okay with that?
Go ahead. No worries.
Awesome, sweet. So I know you mentioned books before. What are your 3 big books that you recommend for anyone watching this video right now?
Yeah, so bunch of staples, the ones that I always go back to. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, so of course, Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. Rich Dad Poor Dad, a lot of tips on investing there. And am I missing one? So I'm talking personal growth, self development. There's also 12 Rules for Life that you mentioned by Jordan Peterson, which is an amazing book. So those would be my top 3 at the moment. They always change, but those are the ones that I always go back to if I need to refer to anything or refresh my mindset.
I think that's very important for people to pick only 10 to 20 books and just dive really deep into them, because so many
Yeah.
people are just trying to like, oh, I need a new book, or shiny object syndrome, I need something new or whatever. I'm like, well, just go back and like reread something like 3 or 4 times. Like I think I've read like Russell Brunson's like Expert Secrets and Dot-Com Secrets. I think I've probably read those books maybe like 8 times each. And
Yeah.
each time I read it, I get something
It's
new.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
there's always something new that comes
crazy.
out that you don't read like the first time or the 6th time on something. So that's something that a lot of people just don't really get the grasp of, is just rereading old books, because new ideas will come straight from it. I love that list. Awaken the Giant Within is the only one I haven't read on that one, and that has been on my list for like 2 years. Because that's like a thick boy. I know that that's like a very
Yeah.
thick boy.
It's a good one. I
I
love
saw
it.
someone when I was working my part-time job, my last part-time job at the at the Vancouver Canucks hockey arena. I mostly deal with like premium clientele and stuff, like people that are in corporations or like high-end CEOs and managers that sit in the section. And one of them actually brought down Tony's new book and put it into the cup section, and he was reading it during the intermission. And I was just
Oh,
like, oh, I'm like, oh, are you going to
yeah.
the what's his big business event? Like
Unleash the Power Within or Business Mastery.
either business mastery or one of the ones that like he costs like $5,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm like, oh, are you going to be going there? He's just like, why? I'm like, he's going to do the pitch at the end. And he's just like, no.
Uh,
And then he read like all the way, like he finished like the book right there in the game. He's like, he did do the pitch. I'm like,
uh.
uh,
Smart.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a
Now,
good
for my
book.
last question, I ask everyone who I interview this, because I love getting their own take on it, and it really does like resonate with where they actually kind of view themselves in the world, which I love. So if you can be any animal in the world, be it domestic or wild, which animal would you be? And why?
Whew. Whew, whew, whew. It'd probably be one of my favorite animals, which is an elephant. I love them because they're A, sweethearts, B, they have a lot of symbolism back behind that, and probably been influenced by Eat, Pray, Love, when the elephant just comes in. Yeah, so ever since I started my business, I've become so much more spiritual, which is weird because I used to be like an atheist, like die hard, nothing's out there. And now I'm just like, oh my God, fairy tales and rainbows. But yeah, definitely an elephant because I love nature and just being out in the wild, and, and just they have their kids and they're so cute, and they represent prosperity and luck and new beginnings. So definitely that would be the animal that I would be. And I know you were probably waiting for like either a whale or like a tiger or a lion or something, but nah, I'll stick to my little elephants. Are cute.
No, elephants, I could see a lot, because elephants are big.
Yeah.
Elephants, like, not to say that you're big, but it's a metaphorically
Thank
big.
you.
It's
Don't ever
metaphorically.
tell a girl that. Just kidding.
Oh no, I don't know. It's 2020, Karen. Like I don't
Evan,
know.
I'm
I don't
kidding.
know what's
I'm
going
kidding.
on.
I'm so
Oh, I
not
know you are.
self-conscious. Don't worry about it.
No, I know. But it's one of those things, like it's like a big animal that like makes a big presence, but they're the wisest creatures as well.
Yeah.
Like the only ones that like take care of the tribe is the grandma elephant at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So they see
Yeah.
themselves as like very wise spiritual beings, and a lot of people actually, like, especially a lot of religions, they worship elephants as those prime spiritual beings that they are. And I do see a lot of resemblance as well, not physically, but I do see some resemblance as well. And lastly, just to where can people find you? What kind of socials are you most likely going to be on? Where can people write you messages? Any websites? All that sort of shit.
Yeah. Definitely Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's just my name is Carine, so it's a French name, Carine. Badran, Badran. So very simple. You can find me through that on Instagram and LinkedIn, and also YouTube, my name as well. And on the podcast, Lady Leaders Podcast, iTunes, and Spotify. So you can definitely find me there, and I'm pretty consistent with the content that I put out. So you will never have a dull moment.
That's always true. 100%.
Yeah,
Always one of the more
never a
consistent
dull
ones I've
moment.
done. Awesome. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate you taking the
you.
time out of your day. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. All that sort of fun stuff helps out with the algorithm. Trying to get my push up to 1K. If you're watching this and I'm already past 1K, still hit that subscribe button anyway. So yeah, I'll catch you later, Carine. Have a good one.
See ya. Bye.